We are Uncharted Limbo. We're a collective of creative coders and visual artists crafting what we like to call computational magic. We produce groundbreaking new media experiences and artworks at the intersections of code, interactive visuals, and performing arts.
We resonated deeply with Air's notion of making the invisible visible. In this proposal, the invisible refers to the unseen process of communication between humans and digital beings. This process of understanding becomes an invisible force that gradually brings the two together.
We came into this residency with an idea that had been brewing within our team for a while, a nerds to explore questions about agency and the emerging sentience of digital entities.
Our experience in coding and art directing real-time visuals for performances and installations led us to a profound conundrum. Is there anything beyond the typical accompanying visuals and one-way reactivity seen in most new media performances? Can we go deeper than artfully remapping a set of numbers from one range to another? What if a truly sentient, algorithmic being with its own expectations, thought processes, and agency existed and became an active participant and equal performer in the show? Put simply, can thinking machines perform alongside humans?
Monolith explores the complex interaction between human movement and generative audiovisual effects, aiming to create a performative dialogue between two entities, one human, the other not. We envision the development of our digital performer's brain in 3 steps, each following a specific technological approach. First, the machine needs to perceive the human performer and its surroundings through ultra-low-light cameras and 3D pose estimation AI. Next, it needs to interpret the performer's behavior using a custom-trained AI model to predict the meaning and emotion of short movement sequences. Finally, it needs to interact by generating audiovisual gestures in response to and in anticipation of the performer's past, present, and predicted actions, creating a non-verbal form of dialogue.
We quickly realized that understanding how the machine perceives and interprets motion is a crucial and fascinating step, almost a project on its own, given Air's short time frame and the growing complexities of her project. We chose to save the interactive dialogue for a later phase and focus on the first 2 steps, perception and interpretation.
To train a digital being in non-verbal communication with dancers, we first need to understand the range of physical expression available to a human body in motion. Only by establishing the potential and the limits of the body as a language can we encode movement so neural networks can effectively learn to recognize it. We wanted to capture a wide but nuanced range of human movements, while also exploring their thematic and narrative meanings. To do this, we hosted movement workshops with world-class dancers and choreographers. We began by discussing in depth the idea of performing alongside a digital entity, then recorded a series of 10-minute improvised dance sessions, followed by 30 minutes of reflection across 4 days. It was really inspiring to see how simple gestures and small motions built into bold, expressive choreographies, evoking the tension of uneasy meetings, hesitant communication, and confrontation between 2 performers discovering each other for the first time.
To convert human movement into data, we tracked the 3D positions of our dancer joints over time using ultra-low-light RGB cameras and neural networks trained on human motion. This process, known as 3D human pose estimation, led us to explore the latest state-of-the-art models. After extensive testing of both commercial and open-source techniques, we chose the GVHMR model, released in September 2024, to process our workshop recordings. While our goal was to capture stable, high-quality data, we found true artistic value in the oddities and glitches from unusual movements. When dancers obscured their faces or distorted their bodies, the pose estimation model struggled. Joints flickered, positions shifted, and stable movements fell apart. When fit to an SMPL 3D avatar, these glitches create surreal effects. Figures drift above the ground, moving in sharp, jerky motions as their humanity seems to fade. Or does it? Ultimately, this is the machine's version of reality, pushing us to question what it means to move like a human when observed by a machine that sees differently. More importantly, How can these differences in perception enhance a co-performance?
Once we obtained the desired motion data, high-quality global trajectories and local limb positions, we proceeded to translate it into a custom format optimized for the next steps. For each frame, we decoupled the 3D joint positions from the dancer's global position and rotation, then converted them into a kinematic representation. In this format, only the orientation of each bone is stored, not the absolute joint positions. This approach ensured that differences in body types and camera placements didn't introduce bias into our movement dataset. At the same time, drawing on insights from the movement workshop, we enriched the tensor representation of each dancer by adding meaningful properties not present in the raw input data. Specifically, we calculated the imaginary cylindrical volume occupied by the performer, the spatial relationship between the dancer's limbs and the floor, and the proximity of the dancer's gaze to the monolith. Importantly, each segment of the choreography was also labeled to indicate the dancer's emotional state, which is crucial for the next training step. To train a model that can classify new short choreographic phrases into our predefined emotion categories, we conducted extensive research on methods for encoding the spatio-temporal relationships of body parts during dance performances. We ultimately chose the LSTM recurrent neural network architecture, which is widely used for sequence-based datasets, to train on our movement workshop dataset. We needed to split the data from the longer choreographic sessions into shorter clips, or windows, to create training and validation datasets suitable for the LSTM architecture. The optimal length of these clips, known as window size, had to be determined through experimentation. We tested various clip durations and overlap ratios, finding that there isn't a single correct answer. Each combination of window size and overlap resulted in a neural network with a distinct internal structure and resulting behavior.
After training our model, we realized we needed a tool to visually inspect the structure of its latent space, a model's mental map, in a way that is fluid and intuitive. Since a neural network's latent space is typically highly dimensional and impossible for humans to grasp, we needed to reduce it to our 3D Cartesian space using dimensionality reduction techniques.
While the commonly used TSNE technique provided interesting results, it fell short for user-friendly 3D navigation. Instead, we opted for the state-of-the-art PackMap algorithm, which created highly comprehensible and visually pleasing spatial structures from our LSTM models.
In this context, our practical need to visualize and interpret the LSTM training results led to an artistic idea with a broader public appeal. A novel interactive environment that lets users navigate a choreographic LSTM network in real time in 3D space.
And so we built Latent Spaceship. Given the captivating appearance of a dimensionally reduced 3D latent space, often resembling clusters of data galaxies scattered in a void, we hypothesized that an effective user action in this environment is not simply visualization, as seen in traditional scientific tools, but rather navigation, similar to how one explores unknown worlds in video games. However, an abstract splatter of data points can be unintuitive for most users to navigate due to the lack of recognizable reference points and familiar orientation cues. To address these challenges, we introduced several key 3D UI concepts under the philosophy of see no more than you need. Depending on the user's spatial distance from the data points, both the appearance of the dataset and the interaction methods continuously adapt to accommodate our natural limitations in understanding and manipulating complexity. From a distance, users see globular clusters that reveal more detail as they approach. These fuzzy neighborhoods gradually fade, uncovering intricate constellations of factual data points. Selecting a cluster highlights the points inside, while everything else fades away.
Throughout the residency, we've had insightful discussions with our core team at ACRS, receiving valuable feedback on our project and specific guidance on our visualization system. Their support helped us navigate potential technical pitfalls and allowed us to pinpoint the right sensing hardware to meet our project's requirements. During the final months of the residency, we collaborated effectively to transfer our workflow to the GPU cluster, benefiting from the enhanced processing speed and increased memory capacity. This significantly improved our project's efficiency and overall capabilities. Additionally, we connected with other artists working on the same topic to share experiences and refine our ideas regarding motion capture and classification.
As Monolith nears the end of its first phase, we recognise the significant progress made during the air residency. We've achieved key technical advancements and refined the project's conceptual and philosophical frameworks. Our movement workshops yielded crucial insights that shaped our narrative and led to the development of a functional custom motion classifier. The next step is to enhance this classifier with longer, more focused dance sessions. This will prepare us for Monolith Phase 2, where we'll explore how the machine responds to the dancer and the possibilities of this unprecedented dialogue. Additionally, the latent spaceship tool has proven to be an effective way to explore complex outputs in 3 dimensions, deepening our understanding of the model's classification results. We aim to refine this method further, making it an accessible tool for artists, educators, and researchers to use with their own datasets and projects. Many thanks from the whole Uncharted Limbo team.